are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello and welcome to Weather Watch on Germantown Municipal Television. I'm your host, Finnegan Gruggett, a student at Houston High School. Have you ever thought about who will help in the event of a natural disaster? And first responders aren't there to help. Lee Race with CERT Plus Training is here to talk about CERT training and how that helps citizens like us prepare for natural disasters. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So would you mind explaining a little bit about yourself for those watching?
Well, I've always been interested in public safety. When I moved to Collierville in the early 2000s, I saw that, the community was really good, but I looked for ways to volunteer to help out and make it even better. And because I was a consultant, I had the time to sign up for different programs, and one of them was the Collierville Citizen Police Academy to learn more about what the police department was. And then I eventually wound up volunteering for the department in a non-enforcement capacity and doing work with the police department. That kind of led me into working with the fire department in public safety. So all of these things kind of come to community safety, and that's what my interest was, and that led me to CERT.
What exactly is the CERT program?
Well, CERT is a program, and it's a FEMA program through Homeland Security. It was started out in California in the 1980s, basically because we could see that when there is a disaster, a major emergency, the first ones on the scene are the people involved. It's the community itself. The citizens are the first responders. And to have those skills to be able to know what to do in advance and how to respond was really critical. That's why CERT really started.
And is there anything that brought you particularly to disaster preparedness?
Yes, because especially in this area, we are in a very earthquake-prone area. We're not like in California where they're maybe on the edge of a tectonic plate. We're in the center of one. An earthquake here could actually be more damaging, and there's no way to know when an earthquake will occur. We're very fortunate to have the Center for Earthquake Research and Information facility at the University of Memphis here, and we've learned a lot from them as to what can happen here, the possibilities, and the damage that would occur here in the Memphis area.
Why should a viewer watching at home go through this training?
Well, several reasons, really. It benefits the individual because if you are prepared, you can take care of yourself, your family, and your neighbor. Secondarily, emergency responders are interested in citizens learning this because you no longer become part of the problem. In a true disaster, there's going to be no way for first responders to help everybody involved in a true disaster. So you will be on your own for possibly 3 days or more. We've seen that kind of thing, not in this area, but certainly with Hurricane Elvis hitting and several other areas. You could see you're going to have power out, you're going to have problems where you have to fend for yourself for a while.
What type of partnerships do you guys have with local fire departments?
Well, we work quite closely with a lot of emergency operations. A lot of the folks who come through our program, and certainly with CERT Plus, which is the nonprofit that I work with, we like to partner with fire departments and police departments in presenting the CERT program to citizens because it is a community benefit. So it should be ingrained in each individual community. We also work with ham radio operators because they are always there when there is a disaster. We work with the Red Cross, with the Medical Reserve Corps, Shelby County Office of Preparedness, Memphis Office of emergency management. So these partnerships are really critical because these are the people, these are the response agencies, and to be able to have this association before a disaster happens is really critical. So that CERT individual, learning CERT, is maybe on that very bottom line as a first responder, but part of an entire network.
So once the citizens are trained, what are their main roles once the disaster has occurred?
And there are several options here. When you take CERT, you learn how to prepare for a disaster and how to respond in a disaster. You can take that just for your own family. You are not obligated as a call-out program. But what we find is when people go through this program and learn how to prepare and take care of their own families, they reach out in their neighborhood. We've had one neighborhood association contact us for additional training. They wanted to bring in radios and supplies. Where do we store the supplies? If something happened in our neighborhood, we want to know where we can all collect in the neighborhood, maybe at the pool house or whatever in an association, and how we can benefit our entire neighborhood if we are going to be on our own for a while. So that's the kind of thing where you can take it it's just me alone, I want to take care of me, my family, my neighborhood, and you can expand from there. A lot of our folks have gone through additional training so that we can be part of drills locally, either at major corporations who would have them, Shelby County drills, national drills, regional drills, to participate in those to hone our skills.
Okay, and would they just be responding to their neighborhoods if there were a natural disaster, or would they have the possibility of going to, say, the next town over and helping?
There's always the possibility of helping elsewhere, and that's what happens in a disaster. People come out to help where they can. So as long as you've taken care of yourself, your family is okay, then you're free to move on to do something else through the Red Cross. A lot of our folks are trained with the Red Cross to be shelter managers and shelter workers. And so these are all useful skills that can be taken on to another community, even if it is not a call-out program. Some people actually self-deploy. You really have to watch that because you have to see where the needs really are. And there's always a structure involved. That's why we teach the incident command system within our CERT program, because that is a national program. There is a pecking order, there is a command system, and so you need to understand that before you move on to another community, because you fit into a different the same command structure, but different people. You need to know how that works before you go out there.
And how long is this training, and is there any cost associated with it?
It is free training. FEMA has supported it in the past, and now local communities have taken over that burden, as you could call it. CERT Plus, which is a nonprofit that I represent, came on board because we could see that this was costing communities money to put on the program. We wanted to benefit those communities by going in and being able to teach the class and have the support system there, so it wouldn't cost the community or the citizens anything to take the class. So it is a free class.
Okay, we have to take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute to talk more with Lee Race. Please stay with us.
Don't worry, the 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I'm Finnegan Gruggett, and you're viewing Weather Watch. We'll continue our discussion about the CERT program with Lee Race. So in the earlier segment, we were focusing mainly on what the CERT program is. Could you kind of discuss what are some of the things that the citizens will learn in your program?
Yeah, the program is about a 16-hour class, so we usually do it in 2, sometimes 2.5 days, depending on what community does it. The first part really involves what you need to know to prepare for a disaster. What you need to have in place and what your community has in place. We talk about the types of disasters that may occur, but then we like to move into really hands-on, how are you going to respond in a disaster? And of course, you know, that's the important part of training, and it's also the fun part of training because you can do it in a safe atmosphere. So we go through fire suppression. A lot of people have fire extinguishers in their home but have never used them. So we light a fire and show them how to use it.
A lot of fun of it.
It gets your attention, but it also makes sense out of what resources you already have. So we use that when we move into medical. So we teach people how to look for life-saving technique. We teach them how to save people who are having a life-threatening emergency. There's certain very simple things that can be done, say to open an airway, to stop excessive bleeding, to treat for shock, the things that might kill someone. Then we move into bandaging an arm, putting on a splint, putting someone on a litter to carry them. So we go through some medical, but it's disaster medical. It's not a CPR, it's not a first aid class. It's just how to handle mass casualties, pretty much, how to identify those things. Then we move into search and rescue, and again that is light search and rescue. To look at a building and know that no, this is too much damage, it's not safe to enter. But when buildings are safe to enter, how can we enter and get people out who need help? And so we go through that, and it is hands-on. We like to say that we learn just like little kids do. You learn it by doing it. You can read these things in a book, but until you actually put on the gear, the hard hat and the leather gloves and have the tools to do what you need to do, you don't really know how to do it. So it's really hands-on. But we move from medical training, we move into concepts like disaster psychology, what to expect with yourself and others.
Okay, and if a natural disaster were to happen and you couldn't communicate over cell phones, is there any other way you guys could communicate between each other?
Right, we have actually added a module to our CERT classes, and it is emergency communications, because cell phone lines will be either tied up or cell phone towers down. There is one form of communication that will always work, and that is amateur or ham radio. A lot of us who've gone through the CERT program have become ham operators, and I believe you are one as well. And that is a form of communication that will never break down. You do need to be certified for it, so there are classes being taught locally in how to become a ham radio operator. And those of us who have done that actually go through drills to reinforce how to use that during a large disaster.
So if there were a large disaster, would you guys have a command post set up where you guys can help communicate for the search teams that are out searching?
Right, and we also have what's called a net communications, where you would get on your ham radio and call in to your net controller and be deployed that way. So the location may change. You can't just pick one location for your emergency operation, because that one might be where the tornado hit.
Is there any way of contacting CERT members when you guys need their help, or is it just on a basis of if their neighborhood's been hit by a tornado?
Normally it will be on the basis of you're going to operate in your own neighborhood, but we do have the contact information on the individuals who have graduated. And we keep in contact with them with different programs because we have additional training. After you've gone through CERT, we will let you know that we have a campaign. It's a national campaign now called Stop the Bleed. So we can teach you how to use tourniquets and when to use tourniquets. We can do active shooter training through the police department. So we bring our graduates back in. We offer them additional programs like in emergency communications. And so those people who have done that and become kind of like our membership, which is a large group of people, we've got those contact information and we keep in touch with them. Some people will drop off and no longer be in touch with us either through email or phone, and that's fine because they've got the information they need to take care of themselves. But there's others that come up and want to join a network, so we do that as well.
So if severe weather were possible, do you guys communicate with those members about the impending severe weather?
No, we pretty much let them know in advance that you need to have your own, say, your weather radio. We're big promoters of encouraging people to get a weather radio because when we do have severe weather, we have more tornado deaths, say, in this area than you would in Tornado Alley. This is more Dixie Alley, but they come at night and they're unexpected, and maybe some people in this area just don't take the warning seriously. So we're big promoters of having that information come directly to you from the Weather Service, because that's really going to be your first line of defense.
So is there any specific training you guys do to prepare for tornado damage versus earthquake damage?
Well, we always like to say we like to prepare for the earthquake because everything beyond that is going to be maybe a little bit easier. You'll have less of your infrastructure out. But yes, we do look at things in terms of isolating it to tornado damage, what to look for. Say when you see debris, will you see power lines down? You got to assume that they're still hot, especially in your own neighborhood. If there's flooding, what to do with flooding and what not to do with flooding, not to drive into it, not to have children play in it. So we do address the different types of issues that you would come across. Like for earthquake, if there is a tremor, that would be the time to shut off your utilities, and we teach people how to do that. But simply, if there's a heavy wind that goes through your neighborhood, no, don't shut off your gas at that point.
Yeah. And how realistic is the search and rescue training?
Well, at the end of our class, we actually have a mock disaster. So everybody puts on their response gear, which is really important to protect yourself first with your gloves and hard hat and mask. And we have victims, I'll put them in quote marks, who appear to be bleeding and in danger, and they have to be rescued. And so the CERT graduates form a team with their incident commander, their team leaders, their medical team, their fire team, and they go and they respond to an outside environment. Some people inside, some people outside, but you've got to bring it all together with the skills that you've learned in the class or read in a book. Now's the time to actually experience it in a safe environment. And so we do that and then actually have a debriefing afterwards.
We have to pause right there, but we'll be back after this quick break. Please stay with us.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked, thrown up against a wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I'm Finnegan Gruggett, and you're tuned in to Weather Watch. We want to spend our last moments talking about what you can do to prepare for earthquakes and why the Memphis area could see the big one in the next century. So on this segment, I want to focus mainly on the earthquake potential in our region. And could you explain why we have a higher chance of seeing an earthquake here in the Memphis area?
Well, you know, as to whether we would have a higher threat of an earthquake, I think this area would expect to see more damage from an earthquake because we are in the center of a tectonic plate. And of course, that's what was seen with the New Madrid fault before. But there are additional there's always additional information coming out to show that the danger that we thought existed, there are some changes to it, and it could make it more dangerous. There's been a lot of retrofitting of structures in this area because of the threat of an earthquake. And certainly the threat of an earthquake is going to be lessened if you can mitigate a lot of these factors, which is what we teach people in our class to strap down their water heater. But today is the Great American Shakeout on 10/20, today's date at 10/20 today. A lot of people participated in the drop cover exercise at schools and different facilities in order to know what to do during an earthquake. You don't run outside. You drop cover and hold on. And that's what's being taught today through the Great American Shakeout. We've got the Central Shakeout going on today, and in Tennessee over 300,000 people registered to participate in that. And it would basically just to reinforce that we do have to think about it and what we would do in the case of an earthquake. In the state of Tennessee, we have a lot of dangers, but there's no way to say exactly when that will occur. But the threat of buildings and the liquefaction of this area, the type of geology that we have with sand and water and everything underneath our buildings, the threat of liquefaction can create terrible havoc to our infrastructure.
So if there were an earthquake, there would obviously be some pretty big damage here in the area. So are there any training simulations you guys do nationwide to prepare for that?
Well, we have been doing training exercises in different facilities, major corporations, of course, with the county and with the city. We've had several drills going on, not just for earthquakes, but tornadoes and floods. The earthquake one would be the extreme, and of course, you always prepare for the extreme. So yes, many of the partnerships with FEMA and TEMA in the city of Memphis and Shelby County do get together with the Red Cross Medical Reserve Corps CERT members to go through these drills either annually, semi-annually, on a regular basis to understand what it's going to take to respond. And you always learn from those experiences, no matter where you are in the drill from whatever point of view. So those are extremely important to our area.
And what would you tell the viewer at home to do to prepare for an earthquake? What are some steps they could do to make their house a little safer in the event of one?
Well, certainly securing things in your home and just looking around your house. And if an earthquake happened right now, what types of things might fall on me? What kind of cabinets would open up? What might fall out of my cabinet? What kind of chemicals could fall and spill and mix and possibly create a lethal gas? Is my water heater secured? Would it come down and would there be a gas explosion? If there is a smell of gas in the house because of a broken gas line, do I know how to shut off the gas, and do I have the tool to do it? So we go through that whole scenario, look at your house and look around and see what could go wrong and prepare for that.
And with all these national weather events, has CERT ever played a role in any of the big disasters?
Yes, it has. Several communities have had call-outs, mostly in California, because that's where CERT started, and that's where CERT has a lot of support. That you know there will be a call-out team. And they do go through additional training in California, I guess because they feel that the threat is greater. But Tennessee is beginning to see that as well. CERT Plus, we have had over 700 graduate through the program in the last 5 years. And when you see the kind of effort that community members are making, then it won't be long before the call out goes to those people who have the skills.
So do any of the CERT members train with the Red Cross to help them?
Yes, we believe in those partnerships, and so we like to bring the Red Cross in to do additional training with shelter, with CPR, with first aid. We have a lot of our members who are also members of the Medical Reserve Corps and go through additional training. There's online training that our members get through FEMA with, say, the Incident Command System or hazardous materials. There's so many other things that can be involved that the more you can learn and partner, the better off the whole community will be.
What type of training would they get with the Medical Reserve Corps?
Well, basically, in the medical training itself, working with the system, even if you don't have the nursing background, you can still be involved in how to work a response and a triage, how to support the transportation and evacuation, how to even handle traffic control. All of these things come into play. Debris removal. You know, when you think of a true disaster, there is a space for everybody in the response.
Where can a viewer at home watching sign up for this class, and who should they contact? Well, in Germantown, the Germantown Fire Department has a wonderful program. In fact, they've just finished up one class this week, and they're going to be starting another class on the 28th, 29th of October, and it will continue over. The last part of that class will be November 5th. So the city of Memphis, you can, or city of Germantown, you could contact the fire department. You could contact Sherry Ray with the city to get that information and sign up for the class. The CERT Plus program is having a class on October 22nd, this Saturday, and the 29th, again a free class up in Millington at the Millington Training Department. And you can see the online registration for that at certplustraining.org. Well, thank you for coming on to the show. I definitely learned a little bit about the CERT program. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. I'd like to thank Lee Race for taking the time out of her day to be on our show. If you'd like to learn more about this show or simply watch more of our programs, please visit www.gmtvonline.org. Until next time, this has been Finnegan Gruggett for this month's installment of Weather Watch.